At the edge of an old town stood a house that no map dared to record. Its paint was always peeling, its windows clouded, its wooden beams groaning like a weary traveler. But the strange thing wasn't how it looked. It was how it felt. People who walked past it swore their shadows stretched longer, as though the sunlight bent differently around its walls. Local children whispered that the house existed in two places at once, half in our world, half in another. Some nights it seemed taller, others smaller, and sometimes a window showed scenes that didn't belong, a forest of glowing trees, a sky with two moons, or a room filled with furniture that was not from any time they knew. For years, no one dared to enter, until Mira came. Mira was not from the town. She was a wanderer drawn to places where reality seemed fragile. When she first saw the house, she felt her heartbeat quicken. Something about the crooked chimney and the faint hum in the air told her it was waiting. She stepped through the creaking door, and the world shifted. Inside, the floorboards were old oak, but with every step they flickered. Sometimes wood, sometimes stone, sometimes a glass-like surface that reflected stars instead of her shadow. The walls rippled faintly, as if the house were breathing. A staircase spiraled upward and downward at the same time, leading to different destinies depending on which foot she placed first. She climbed. On the second floor, she found herself standing in two rooms at once. One was a dusty bedroom with broken furniture. The other overlapped perfectly, a chamber of glowing crystal, humming with energy, as if built by hands not human. Mira's breath fogged in one half of the air, yet hung warm in the other. She stretched her hand forward, and her fingers passed through the invisible line, dividing the two realities. A voice whispered from nowhere and everywhere, "Traveler, you've entered the threshold. Choose wisely, for the house does not keep doors open for long." Mira realized then, the house wasn't cursed. It was a bridge, a tether between two worlds pulling against each other, anchored by this single structure, and each who entered became part of its story. Some people, she understood with sudden dread, never left. Not because they couldn't, but because they chose to remain in the other dimension the house revealed. She stood before a doorway. To her left, the familiar, broken town. To her right, a vast silver plain beneath three suns. She hesitated, her heart torn between the safety of home and the promise of wonder. The door began to close. Mira took a breath, stepped forward, and the house shifted once more, swallowing her choice in silence. To the people outside, the windows went dark again. The house looked empty, abandoned, forgotten. But sometimes when the moon was high, a shadow flickered past the glass. Hers, or maybe someone else's, wandering forever between worlds. The house did not let go of Mira. When she stepped forward, she expected to feel the warmth of the silver plains beneath three suns. But instead she felt two realities overlap in her very body. Her left hand tingled with the heat of alien light, her right hand chilled by the draft of the crumbling old town. She stood between two skies, two lives, unable to belong entirely to either. The voice returned, softer this time, as if spoken through water. "Traveler, you have chosen both." Suddenly, the house itself began to respond to her presence. Its walls twisted, aligning to her heartbeat. The staircase stretched higher, and corridors split endlessly like veins. Each door she passed now showed not one world, but dozens. Oceans boiling with storms, deserts filled with glass towers, jungles where shadows move without owners. Mira realized the truth. This house was not only a bridge between two dimensions. It was a nexus, a route connecting countless realities. A house of doors, each one a destiny waiting to be lived. But the house demanded something in return. The air thickened, and from the corners of the walls, figures began to form. They were echoes of travelers before her, men and women who had entered and never left. Their eyes shimmered with two colors at once, their bodies slightly out of sync, as if time itself could not decide what version of them should exist. One stepped forward, a tall man in a coat that flickered between leather and armor, his voice echoing in two tones. "Once you walk through, you are marked. You can never belong fully to one world again. Choose carefully, Mira, or you'll become like us, wanderers forever caught between." Mira's heart pounded. She wanted to run, but the house was alive now, its heartbeat pulsing through her bones. Every exit she glanced at flickered and vanished the moment she turned her head. Only one door remained, glowing faintly at the top of the impossible staircase. She climbed again, her feet striking with that turn to stone, then glass, then metal. The higher she went, the more her body felt stretched, like her soul was being split apart to fit the spaces between worlds. At the top, she found the final chamber. It was vast and endless, walls dissolving into a horizon of stars. A single table stood in the middle, and upon it rested a key that shimmered in both silver and shadow. The voice whispered once more, "The key will decide. Will you anchor yourself to one world, or will you unlock the others and walk them all?" Mira reached out. Her hand hovered over the key. Behind her, the murmurs of the trapped wanderers grew louder, desperate. Ahead of her, infinity beckoned. The house trembled, waiting. "You're very welcome. Milky Way sparkles. I'm glad you enjoyed the house between worlds."